I'm kinda like you. Hit 3 words, when the word comes up, point, hit.
I want my keyboard.
Yeah, a little slow.
Where's your charge cord?
All right, we're going to call this meeting the Brown County Commission to order. Commissioner Fishback, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first on the agenda, we've got Larry Lovren, Brown County State's Attorney, and Chris White, Chief Deputy State's Attorney, to discuss Marcy's Law's impact on us and what we're going to do here. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good point.
So as all of you know, Marcy's Law got passed last week. So now we get to decide what ramifications are to our county. I'm sorry, Nancy, what was
I
it?
just remember I told Larry last week I was going to tell him it had to do with Marcy's Law.
Okay, maybe we can talk
No,
about
I don't want that.
I think, me and Gary talked about it yesterday, 60-40?
60-40.
What was it?
Yeah, it was quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yeah. I think probably the widest margin of any of the constitutional amendments or measures. So now, as we're sitting here today at about 9 o'clock, the Attorney General and the Secretary of State are doing the ballot certifications, and it should go, Marcy's Law, because it's a constitutional amendment, should go into effect between now and tomorrow morning, probably tomorrow morning. So we need to start operating under it right away, or we're going to be violating the Constitution.
It goes in effect immediately?
Yep.
Anybody written the rules for it yet, or do you know all the rules for it? Or?
Well, they have the 19 different sections of the constitutional amendment that was proposed, and that's what will go into effect. The problem with all 19 of them, they're really general, and it's hard, and that was one of the arguments against it. We don't really know what it all spells out exactly, and I think through the next 10 to 15 years, we're probably going to find out through litigation what some of this stuff means. It looks to me like it was written by somebody that's not involved in the system at all, because a lot of it doesn't make sense, and it's just not practical. But we're going to do our best to comply with it because we have to. So that's where that's at. So what I did is I went out and did some research from other counties in South Dakota to figure out where they're at with a victim specialist, because that's what I'm here asking for. And I know I spoke last week at a lunch that Rachel was at, and she almost fell out of her chair when I said that I'm going to ask for a full-time victims specialist and an assistant to that person. Now that I've kind of retooled things, and because it's early on and we don't know exactly what the impact of Marcy's Law will be on our office, we know it's going to affect us quite a bit and it's going to be a lot of work. But because we don't know the exact work it's going to take, I'm going to wait on that assistant, that part-time person, and just ask for a full-time. We are one of the only big counties, or actually we are the only decent-sized county without a full-time victims assistant. The way it stands right now, you know how Jody Brown's deal is set up. We have a federal grant that pays her to do the domestic prosecution. We match it as a county with the match that we have to get the federal grant. There's a certain percentage, I think it's 10 to 20% or something. I have the numbers. But we match that, and because of that match, we ask her to do victims assisting, which ends up only being about a quarter time because she's part-time. So we have technically a quarter-time person. Brookings has a full-time person and their salary range, and they all break this down hourly. The only county that I could find that actually pays their victims assistants hourly is Minnehaha. And I think probably it doesn't help the county, because what I hear is they're doing 40-plus hours every week. They have very similar hours to the attorneys. They're in on weekends if there's jury trials, working with victims. They're in, traveling, like they would have traveled to Pierre with me and had to been there for my victim, my family. And in cases in the county, they would obviously be there for trial, for the most part. So they're going to have long hours. So I think it makes sense to pay them salary, but the way it breaks down is hourly, and we can all convert that. So Brookings goes for their one full-time person, $21.10 all the way up to $26.40 is their range. Beadle County has one full-time person. I don't have their numbers that they make, but what I hear is it's similar to the other counties. Beadle is actually going to get another person to do the domestic assault cases, victims assisting, so they'll have kind of a, I don't know, one full-time that does everything else, and then one that does just domestic assault, so they'll actually have more than us once this is said and done.
Wasn't that Michael Moore really pushing this down in Beetle County? And he said this isn't going to impact our FD at all. He said it wouldn't be any more work. So how is it more work for us and not for them? Are they interpreting it different?
It's a good question. I haven't asked Mike that myself. I disagree with him, and I think every other prosecutor in the entire state does. Actually, I know they do.
So he's
the only
on his
one.
own?
He's the only one that said that. I think what he had said is he has operated under Marcy's Law forever. I would respectfully disagree with that. It's not possible. You can't assist the victims of the misdemeanor crimes the way that Marcy's Law requires, especially if you didn't know it was a constitutional requirement. It wouldn't even it wouldn't be practical. You know, and the example I use in my letter to the editor is, if somebody steals a pack of gum from, let's say, Walmart, who's my victim in that case? Walmart? Is it the Waltons? Is it the
Walton family?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, how do I know who to give the assistance to and to make sure that they're on board with a potential sentence, which the standard on those cases is going to be no jail time and restitution for the 25-cent pack of gum. So to put in hundreds and hundreds of dollars in manpower to assist that victims, it's just not practical. It's crazy.
But then we should talk about that Savin, because isn't it proactively those victims have to sign on to it? So it's not like you're up there having to call every victim. They have to get on and sign, and isn't that's something that the state's taking care of?
Kind of, and it's early in the stages on Savin, and that's one thing that kind of encouraged me not to ask for the assistant, the part-time person, because what I've been told right from Marty Jackley is that he's going to put some money into Savin. He's going to try to get it up and running to meet the Marcy's Law that needs more. The problem with Savin is it's only an electronic deal for them to fill out. The vast majority of our victims, and I've heard this across the state with the way Savin works and the DCI victim specialist, is a lot of them don't have access to computers. They have to go to a library, or they don't have email. You have to have an email to sign up. So the problem we get stuck in, Rachel, is it's a constitutional measure, and we have to meet it step for step, and Savin's not going to do that. It just can't, because it's not a real person. It'll help. It'll certainly help. I think it'll help maybe if a person doesn't sign up, and then they waive outside of Savin, then they would waive their right to it, and we wouldn't have to follow it. That would obviously help, and they would rely on our office to do the right thing, which a lot of people do now, but we still have to reach out to those people to make sure that they're on board with that. And we don't do that now. I mean, there's certain cases, you know. What I said is we operated under Marcy's Law for felony cases. We always have. And if you don't do that, you shouldn't be, you should elect somebody else as state's attorney, because I think it's wrong. But misdemeanors, it's not practical. Some misdemeanors, you know, domestic assaults or simple assaults, we work with the victims every single time, and step by step they know where we're going with things. But misdemeanor petty thefts, it's not practical. Kessler's, I'm sure Kessler's or Walmart, they're probably going to waive their right to it because they don't have time to track the stuff and follow it and get these court notices, and it's just crazy. But it's going to be required. It is required in a few hours. So.
Can they waive the right?
I think they can, yep.
So I was going to ask that question too, if they could just sign off.
Yep, and the Attorney General is also putting some money into, and this is good for us because we don't have to spend money on it, is some kind of card. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but it's hopefully going to have some kind of waiver that, let's say law enforcement is on scene and there's a victim on scene, they can read them the card, the victim might be able to sign it and waive it, or, you know, not all victims are on scene, so we might have that card at our office too. I haven't seen it yet, but we should be getting it here. I hear it's coming in today, so.
Did this pass in North Dakota?
I think it did. I think North Dakota,
Montana, I think.
Montana, and maybe even Wyoming.
Over 3 or 4 states.
North Dakota was
sure,
having
yep.
that election.
I want to say North Dakota passed even more than ours did.
Part of the problem, of course, is that the word victim is defined very broadly. So it's not just the person that was directly injured, it's their spouse, it's their parent, it's their child, it's their, you know, a whole extended family. And so just because one person waives it doesn't mean everybody else does. And it doesn't mean that half of them think one way and half of them think another way about a particular issue that's raised by the prosecution. So there's a lot of hand-holding that has to go on to kind of accommodate everybody. So that's part of the problem. We just don't know yet.
And it's actually even broader than just that. It's spouse, parent, grandparent, child, sibling, grandchild, guardian, or any person with a relationship that's similar to that. So who knows, who knows what that means. I mean, me and Larry were talking, if we were the victims of a crime, I think Larry would have about high 20s of people we'd have to notify, and I'd probably have the same when it all came down to it. So
You are mandated to do this, it's not the victim's part to go do any of this?
I think that's where the waiver comes in. I think if they don't, maybe we put a time on it. I got to see the card first to know what the whole state's going to do, but let's say they don't contact anybody within 10 days. We don't hear from them. Maybe that waives their right to this constitutional right. I don't know. We got to figure that out still. The problem with the way Marcy's Law was set up is it's a constitutional amendment, so it goes into effect right away. And we could have done all this planning before, which we did some of it, but we also didn't know if it was going to pass, and we didn't want to put a ton of man-hours into all of this. So now here we are, trying to figure it out now. So the other counties I was going to go through is Cottington County. They actually have their person at almost $27 per hour. I think she makes about $57,000. She's been around for quite a long time, I think 20-plus years. Hughes County has just under 40 hours a week their person works, and she's comparable to the Brookings County that I talked about. And she was lower, and I think Hughes County has worked its way up before Marcy's Law was passed, and I think it'll probably work its way up even more now. Minnehaha has 4 full-times. They're asking, I think, for 4 more from what I hear. They're from $21 all the way up to $30 an hour. Pennington County has 4 full-times. They're asking for 4 additional now. I think they're doing it today. They're an hour behind us, so I might have just took their commission off to it. They're asking for 4 more, and they range right around the $22 an hour. The difference with Pennington is they have a victims coordinator. It's kind of the head of the victims specialist, and that person gets $74,000 a year. So I think it's a male, and he outpaces some of the attorneys because it's a demanding job. It really is. It's one of the stressful parts of our job, kind of chasing the people around and making sure they're coming out and meeting with you and talking through the case and preparing for trial and stuff. That sometimes it's not easy to do because some of them are not necessarily willing to do it, or they go back and forth for different reasons. It's kind of the domestic cycle that we always see with domestic relationships. So Lincoln County has 1 full-time, and I believe they're going to be asking for additional, but that person's from $18 an hour up to just shy of $27. DCI has several victims specialists that travel around the state. They go from $22.50 up to $26, and the Highway Patrol has some too that are just over $22.50. So with all of those numbers, I ran some of our numbers, and what I would like to advertise the position at, if it's authorized by you folks, is $21 up to $25, with it realistically kind of coming in somewhere in between is what I would think. I say that because I think it does a couple things. It keeps us competitive with the other counties, which is important right now because a lot of people are going to be looking right now. I know Beadle County, along with 11 counties in their little area, they have a domestic violence prosecutor grant, and she travels 11 counties for Beadle County. She's going to be getting a victim's assistant, or at least they're putting it out there. So they're going to be hiring kind of in our area.
That's the one person in Beadle, but she covers a bunch of others?
They also have an additional full-time.
Gotcha. So the smaller counties are coming together and pitching in towards this one?
Yes, because they have a domestic prosecutor
Okay.
that just does domestics in Beadle, and she's contracted with 10 or 11 other counties there.
Okay.
So she travels to all that area. Now she will have a victim's assistant to work on her victims' cases with victims, which is every domestic.
Is there anything that we look at partnering with smaller counties to help out, or don't we want to get into that, or what are your thoughts?
I don't think you want to get into that because I think it's going to cost us a lot more money to do that because we're going to be lucky to swing it with 1 full-time. So we're going to be looking, if we're going to partner, we're going to need more people to do it. It's really what I think. I think I'm being really conservative right now with the 1 and not having another part-time person. But I'll get to it, and it has to do with Chris from Weed and Pest. I think we can kind of tie his role in since we get to use him until sounds like through the winter maybe. So I was gonna ask you for that, and we'll talk about that. But the number I was at was $21 to $25, so what that works out as a salary is from $43,600 up to $52,000. Realistically, I said I think it'll come in between. It'll keep us competitive. It'll also allow the Department of Labor has that minimum now with the overtime, and that's right at 47. Gary sent me the numbers this morning. Right at 47.4. That'll keep us just above that, so we don't have to pay overtime if we came in right between, in the middle of those numbers. It's also comparable, I think, the HR assistant and the deputies in all the offices, the chief deputies, are all at $22.91. So if we came in right around that $22.91, $23 range, it's comparable. What we're looking for in a person is, you know, hopefully some social work experience, probably a bachelor's degree at the least, and some experience with victims assisting. I mean, it's important to understand the system, at least understand the criminal justice system and know the ins and outs of it, because a lot of it is just hand-holding and explaining, because these people don't have any experience with it. They don't know what an arraignment is. They don't know what a preliminary hearing is. So the person would have to sit down and help explain that to them. So that's what I would ask for the full-time position. As far as space goes, I think we can make the space. We're working on it right now. Penny was in, I think, in a sweatshirt and jeans for 2 days, boxing stuff up and trying to move some files around. We're hoping we can get our file room emptied out, and I think we can. It kind of pushes us along to get the scanning stuff done. Chris will do that. I think that's what he's at work on it as we speak. We're stacking boxes up in our office right now for Judy to move off-site, because we're required by law to keep them for so long. Once we're putting dates on them, once that date hits, Judy can shred them. But we'll at least keep them in a county building, secure, and then they don't have to sit in our file room. But that'll free up our file room as a victim's assistance office, hopefully. I looked around the state at other places. Some people have just their small office and they go meet with the victim in a conference room. But some people have kind of a therapeutic type setting with a couch and a chair and like a little kid's table with coloring books. And that's what our office space would be big enough to do that.
Like a braiding chair and,
And Nancy can donate a couch maybe.
Yeah. I have a text here, Chris, from an attorney here in town. Said, I would really like to see the Marcy's Law proposal before the commission takes action.
Okay.
And
do you have those bullet points? Can anybody look those up? What is all?
You're talking the Marcy's Law with the laws?
Yeah. I mean, would you answer that, because obviously they're watching?
Well, yeah, I could read it. I mean, it's going to take a while.
Is there a place they can look it up?
Where do you get that?
I would just Google initiated constitutional amendment, Marcy's Law.
So that is our proposal, right?
Well, this is a law. This is
law.
Within the next 24 hours, this is part of our South Dakota Constitution.
Yeah.
And the proposal is simply to hire one person to help carry out the requirements.
Okay, so that's right here now. Okay.
My proposal is to hire one full-time victim specialist so that we can meet the South Dakota constitutional requirements.
So that's our whole thing. So basically, we have made it available here by the news.
Yes, and what's the person wants? He wants to know what the 19 sections are?
No, he just wanted to see the proposal.
So the proposal is to hire one full-time person at $21 up to $25 per hour.
Okay.
Okay, any questions for Chris? I guess my thought is it's a little early. I know it takes effect today. How are we coming? Is Chris doing well in the office?
He's doing a good job. He's right now just scanning stuff to get it into the system so we can clear out some space, which we planned on doing anyways. So that's what he's doing currently. I think he's done that.
And then he was supposed to be there just until the other staffer comes back, right? Is that?
Yes, and what I was going to ask.
When was that supposed to be?
Right before Christmas.
Okay, so he's going to be working on that up until Christmas.
But he's not qualified to handle this position, is he?
To be the victim's assistant?
Yeah.
I would say he would have a lot of learning to do.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And then what do you do when it's time to go do weed and pest stuff?
Right.
Right.
Does this person need to be an attorney background or law enforcement background? Is that kind of where we're leaning towards?
No, I don't think it has to be. They don't have to have a JD. I mean, if they have a law enforcement background, it may help because they would understand the system. I would look more for somebody that has victims assisting background, because I think it's more important. Social work type.
Yeah, social type thing.
You know, counseling maybe, it just depends. There's a lot, I think there's a wide range once you get into that kind of broad social work spectrum.
Do you have any numbers, in fact, and this is probably hard because we've not been under this part yet, but any idea what we're looking at for numbers in a month's time for victims assistance that it's going to run through? Any idea what?
Well, I can tell you right now, the talk across the state with other prosecutors is that when this goes in effect, today or tomorrow, it would go into effect for all pending cases too. So like I said, we don't send out a victim's letter to every misdemeanor person because it just wouldn't be practical. But it'll go into effect for those cases. I counted up just roughly yesterday. We have about 800 active warrant cases. I think there's a dispute between some people think that it includes those. Some people think it actually has to be a pending prosecution case, because some of those go back to the 90s. But there's 800 of them. I know some of the prosecutors I talked to yesterday, they're going to have to send it out for all their active warrants, or they at least think they have to.
So this went retroactive. It didn't start like tomorrow.
No. And then our pending cases between felonies, misdemeanors, and juveniles, we have just under 300 pending. It's pending. And every case that comes in gets added to it, obviously. So, no, I mean, with those numbers, Doug, it'd just be a complete guess on how many we're going to be sending out.
So what we're really waiting for is law cases on these to find out what's really going to be done in the future, which cases apply and which don't? Is that what we're doing?
I mean, here, for example, Nancy, just the first few bullet points are the right to due process and to be treated with fairness and respect for the victim's dignity. What's that mean? I don't know.
Too broad.
Number 2, the right to be free from intimidation, harassment, and abuse. Technically, they already have that because then the person that's harassing would be charged with a crime. So what's that mean? I don't know. Number 3, the right to be reasonably protected from the accused and any person acting on behalf of the accused. Again, we have witness tampering statute, so I'm not sure what that was. Number 4, the right to have the safety and welfare of the victim and the victim's family considered when setting bail or making release decisions. Danger to the community, we already have that statutorily. So a lot of this, who knows what it means? Who knows? And that was the point all the prosecutors and defense attorneys were making when we said this is crazy, this doesn't make a lot of sense to us. We already have 90% of it. But now we have to act under it. We don't get to just use it by discretion and say, well, I don't think a person that lost a quarter out of their car, that had their car broken into, is a victim, not a victim anymore. They don't care. I have to operate under it or I'll be violating the Constitution, which would then lead into potential civil liability for the county. There are civil cases in California where this has been in place for a while, where they sue people that violate it. I no longer have immunity if I'm violating this stuff. So it's going to be a whole can of worms we're going to have to look into. But we need to be on the front end of it to prevent the liability from coming back on the county.
I can see where the county's liable for some big dollars in this.
And Marcy's law...
I think the 40-some thousand a year is a drop in the bucket compared to what it could turn into if we're not careful.
Had Marcy's law not passed, would you be in here asking for more help in this area anyway?
Probably at some point. I think we're obviously behind all the other counties that are our size or smaller with a quarter-time person. I think the difference, Rachel, is it's put a ton more work on the attorneys doing the victims assisting with their cases. And we were going to hit a breaking point at some point. So.
Well, it seems like everybody's confused on the interpretation of some of these things and how much work it's really going to be. We don't know what the expectations are yet. We don't know, like I said, the interpretation. We don't know what the state's going to provide, what they're not going to provide. So to go ahead and put a full-time person there without knowing for sure what's going to be on your shoulders in that office.
Like I said, I'm being super conservative with it. I'm as conservative financially as anybody I know, I can tell you that. I'm not coming to you asking for something that I'm just guessing I'm going to need. I need it. I absolutely need it, or I wouldn't be asking for it. you gotta realize Savin's been in the works for years, and it's just got up and running. It's gonna be, and Marty Jackley told me this last week at we had a specific board meeting from the state, with the state's attorney's board that I'm on this issue. And the Attorney General came to Sioux Falls for it, and he said, I'm gonna do everything I can to get Savin for some help, but it's not gonna happen for a while, because it's gonna take, it's a computer program, it's gonna take a while. Plus, it's not gonna give us all the help we need, I can guarantee you that. Just like I said, a program that you fill something out is not gonna meet these 19 sections of the constitutional amendment. It's not gonna be able to.
So it is up and running now?
Savin works, yeah.
And basically, these folks, if they do have a computer, it's done for them then, the notification. They just log on and they're
Notification,
updated.
that's
So
all
it's
Savin
those
does.
people, and are you in charge of keeping the updates in the program, or is that your office? Is that the state? Is that...
I'm not sure how that works. I think it's just the state system keeps
Okay.
working it. Nobody in my office is plugging stuff into Savin each day.
Okay.
But what
So all the
Savin
people
does
that
is
have
if
to-
somebody signs up, it's no different than, so now they get notification of an arraignment date.
Mhm.
Same as Penny would make a letter and send it out to the person. It's the
Mhm.
same thing. But that's not all that's required under Marcy's law. That's like one of the sections of the 19. There's far more requirements that you have to meet face to face. You have to get their approval. You have to go, they have to come to hearings with you. They have to be notified of the process. And a lot of it falls on the state's attorney's office.
Sure.
Some of it falls on the judges, I think. And I don't know what the court system has planned for
But
it.
90% of it, you said, we're already doing.
90% of it we're already doing on major felony cases.
This brings all the misdemeanors into it.
Well, and other felony
Right,
cases.
right.
I mean,
All the
I'll-
warrants and everything.
Right.
It sounds like you're gonna need more than one eventually, if this
I hope not.
doesn't get fine-tuned down to something.
It's not going to be fine-tuned for a while.
I know,
But that's my guess, but I
Yeah.
think you're right, Nancy. I think at some point, it's possible. I can tell you, compared to the other counties, we're asking for little. I mean, Sioux Falls has 4, they're asking for 4 more. They're going to have 8 total. Pennington has 4, they're asking for 4 more, they're going to have 8 total.
And if we even double what you're doing, like they seem to be doing already, we're not even doubling that, because how many of you are already taking care of some of those points?
Yeah, and I mean, even without Marcy's Law, Brookings, Beetle, Coddington, Hughes, Lincoln, all similarly situated counties as us, some of them far smaller and smaller caseloads, have full-time victims assistants. So that's where we're at. I truly think we need one, and it's kind of is a chicken or the egg thing, because I think I could technically go into executive session and give you guys some legal advice on potential liability that we could be facing, but I don't want to have to do that, because I want to keep it open and talk to you guys about this position first. So I'd ask for that to be approved, and for us to be able to advertise that position at $21 to $25. I would also ask that if we could keep Chris through March, that would help sometime in March, whenever he would start doing his normal duties with weed and pest, but that would help us clear some space and stay ahead of the curve as far as scanning, and then I won't be asking you anytime in the near future for another person to help out. And maybe it would work out where we could have Chris every winter. That'd be awesome.
How does that fit into your budget, the additional $45,000 to $47,000?
For next year, we didn't have it fit in there because how often does a constitutional amendment come down and change our South Dakota Constitution? I think I could count on one hand how many times it's happened. So we didn't have it in there, but I think we could try to find as much space as possible for it.
I'd make the motion that we advertise as you requested for that position.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table to request for a full-time between $21 and $25 victim assistant. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Sutton. Any other questions? And I am going to vote against it for now, just because I think it's too early when we don't have the interpretation down. I completely am with you as far as use Mr. Heeman as long as you can. I understand he doesn't have all the training, but I think until we get some of this interpretation and find out what exactly the state's attorney the Attorney General's office is going to provide, that's just where I'm at. But I do appreciate you bringing it, and I'm not saying I wouldn't support it in a week here or two when we find out what exactly this is going to mean for the county. So. Any other questions or comments for
And
Chris?
just so everybody knows, we're not gonna know in a week or two what this means for the county.
It sounds to be like several years before everything's all settled down.
It's gonna take a nice, big, fat lawsuit
Mhm.
before we figure out what happens.
And I sure don't think our county needs that.
And that's what it's gonna take, and we had that discussion with the Attorney General. Who's gonna foot the bill for this when one
Yeah.
county gets sued? And who's gonna sit there and take the punches on, which county's is it gonna happen to? And I can tell you where we were set up, as we stand today without the person, we're set up to be that county because we have a quarter-time person. So I would really hope that it's not us that has to take that hit. So.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay, let me do the, Hanson,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Fishback,
Aye.
Feldheim,
Aye.
Kipley.
No. Okay, motion passes 4-1. Thank you guys very much for bringing the information.
I sure hope we're not that county they're going to pick on, but we've had no luck lately.
Do we need to take action on keeping Chris there for an extra amount of time, or do we handle that down the road?
I'm not sure on that personnel, if that was.
I don't know if we've ever had a deadline on his, what hours.
Well,
that we
March
have.
you wouldn't be
No.
getting ready for spring. April you may start getting your equipment ready, but.
Yeah, I don't see no reason why you can't keep him till
Right.
March.
And he'll need that
Nothing, is there nothing?
day each week to do,
This
catch
year's
up
group,
with.
I'm gonna swap it out between the.
Because I think they have some conferences
you were
and stuff
shrinking.
that he's got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
So at this point, they can just assume he'll stick around.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure we talked about it.
Okay, thanks, guys.
thanks, have a great one. All right,
Good luck.
next on the agenda,
Doesn't your chair go up?
it's broken, we need a new chair.
We can't buy just one.
Judy Dosh, maintenance supervisor, change order for the jail project. Good morning, Jude, how are you? Good. We got more good stuff, right?
Yes.
What's going on?
Well, they're starting to put the brick walls in upstairs, so that's good, but when they tore out some walls, we found some conduit that was in my way. So anyway, what this change order deals with is, we found out one time that JDC and anything above can hear what goes on in the control room in Craig's office. So one of the things is I got a price here for put installation above there, so that would do a little bit of soundproofing. That is $1,627.55. The other area is we're modifying the med room. We are just moving the sink. They took the sink out, and when they took it apart, we don't even know how it was draining because the pipe was just clogged. So we're moving it over, and they're putting in some new lines, and then a couple access panels, because they're gonna, when they took the ceiling down, I have some shut-offs up there, and once they put the hard lid in there, I'm gonna be able to access those for some of the stuff on the second floor. So that's also in that $823. The one that's the most is to reroute the conduit that they discovered in the walls, and that's for $2,187.66.
Say that one again?
$2,187.66. And this now will start changing the contract price. I just want you guys to be aware of that.
Because we've already used it for our contingency, so this will.
I had, I can show you,
Yeah.
just had time to print this meeting out, but I had like $300 and some left, so
Yeah, so,
not a lot, but we'll just do this. Oh, you got my one, that's what I need. I was looking for that.
did you get one, Gary?
No. Oh, yeah. I just got this one, so I just,
So what is the total of the change orders?
$4,266.
We're about 4,000 over our original bid is what you're saying?
Well, yes, the contract bid, the original contract sum was $1,985,615. Now we're at $1,989,881. I think that's on that sheet
Yep.
that you have.
So, what's the chances there's gonna be more?
Gosh, I hope so. I hope not, because they've got basically pretty much everything all tore out, and everything's
Should be
going back in. Yep.
Do they have a finish date? Do they have a end date?
We're
or-
still hoping the end of December here. Right now, we're waiting for the elevator. The elevator guys were supposed to be here last week, and we still haven't seen them, and now they're saying the 28th. So,
That's with elevators.
yeah, they just, So I just kinda figured up, I just checked on what my balance was in that line item, because I know my budget is hurting in other line items, but, my balance of today is $1,257,000, I'm just gonna kinda round off. I have to pay Huff out of there of $187,000, that's going through today. I basically figured in there, $350,000 for Paul's IT, because, you know, that IT stuff has changed. They went up to a lot more stuff, you know, so I can't, you know, I don't know for sure what that number's going to be. And then the balance to finish on Huff's is like $488,756. So that leaves me, about $231,000 in there. But I also know that I have, you know, architect fees and that kind of stuff, so I just kind of wanted to bring you up to date on that.
Okay, any questions for
So
Judy?
does that mean you're gonna make it to the end, or aren't gonna make it to the end?
Yeah, well,
Lot of year left.
yeah, that's in just that one light item, my 4222 on my budget.
She'll make it to the end of the year, but I don't know about her budget.
No, my budget is already, and then I just wanted to bring to your attention, we were having trouble with the old elevator that we have, and, I gotta get a different contract done on that. I'm waiting to get paperwork for that, so that next year I'll be able to, because basically, the old one I'll have to do a contract on, and then our new one, I should have a year contract, you know, that should be taken care of. But I'm sitting now already with, I got a $4,600 bill and a $2,100, or let's just say basically a $2,200 bill that I have to pay, because they had to put some, control stuff in there.
Which old one is this?
This is the old one that's been in there since '08.
It's not that old.
I was gonna say, well, wait,
Yeah, it's not that old, but, you know, it's, you know, now it's really getting a lot of use. And so,
What are we modifying on that bedroom? Is it the layout of the room, is it the...
well, we did change a little bit of that, but what that entails is just that, the access panels, 2 access panels, and moving the sink and replumbing it in a different area, because we got to do replumbing, being the other plumbing is really bad. So that's what that part is.
Gotcha. Okay, does anybody else have questions for Judy?
Well, when you're working on the old jail system, as old as that is, and you're at a $1.9 million budget, I think it's expected you're gonna go over somewhat. I don't think you can eliminate that. You would like to, but I don't. It's like when you remodel an old house, you always run into something that ends up showing up that nobody ever thought of.
Well, actually, in the wall, the pipes that we ran into is one of the bigger conduit, and that goes up to our electrical box up on the 2nd floor. And then the other 4 conduits that are there are smaller, but that actually controls the power for our cell doors. So that's not something that we could really move too far out of the way, because that would be really spendy. So we just moved it into an area where it'll work a lot better.
You're right.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'd entertain a motion on the change of order.
Second.
Motion by Feldheim, seconded by Fishbeck. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
All right.
Good luck, hopefully no more surprises.
Sounds good. All right, that brings us to the end of the regular agenda. Max, you want to work on your list?
Okay, the minutes from general meeting of November 8th and the election canvass meeting November 10th.
Cool.
Moved by Feldheim,
Second.
seconded by Sutton. Any questions or changes to those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims and payroll.
Move.
Moved by Fishback, seconded by Hanson. Questions on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
Move.
Everybody have a chance to read that? Okay.
Second.
Motion by Sutton, seconded by Hanson.
Pick whatever.
Any questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The HR report is approved.
Pay request number 5 for the CDGB funding for Safe Harbor. We send the request to the state, they send us a check, and then we turn around and give it to Safe Harbor.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Fishback, seconded by Feldheim. Questions on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
In the packet was the ambulance agreement with the city of Aberdeen.
Second.
Motion by Feldheim, seconded by Sutton. Questions on that ambulance agreement?
No.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
The alcoholic beverage renewal applications were in the packet for 2017.
Is that all of them?
I'm not sure if Anchors Away from Richmond is here yet.
I didn't see it in there, that's why I
Right.
was wondering if they can still,
You'll
they
just
can
have
still
to-
trickle in.
Just that one,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
How do they vary so much in price?
Their location to closest municipality.
I noticed they ranged
By
1,200 to
population.
500 all
Right.
over the board, and I guess I was
Mhm.
wondering how
Yeah.
that worked.
It's, state law says it's your equivalent to your nearest municipality or town. So a liquor license in Frederick is not going to be,
It's a dollar per head, right?
pardon?
So if the population in your town is 300, is liquor license is $300, is that not right, or?
There's some
Well,
formula,
our
right?
number of liquor license is based on population.
The number that are allowed in that area.
In that, yes.
Yeah.
But
yes.
the fee, is that
But the
determined
fee-
by us?
What's the fee based on that?
The closest municipality.
I know, but so the municipality has 500 people, so what's the fee?
They-
$300 or something like that. Where
Who
every
sets that?
The city people by state law set it, and then we just tag on to whichever town we're closest to, the establishment is closest to.
But now, like Big Fellows, I think, was the most expensive at $17.50. What
Right.
determines, I know it's the proximity to Aberdeen,
Right.
but what formula do they use, do you know?
There is no formula. That's what Aberdeen City charges for. I mean, there used to be on the back of the form.
That's what their annual renewal rate is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that-
Right.
that
It
was my
depends on the
question.
municipality's
It depends on the
liquor. Okay.
municipality that they're closest to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what determines.
I thought it was based on the population of that.
No, that's the number of alcohol licenses
Okay.
Brown County can
All
hold.
right, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like if someone's going to start up one, who says your fee's going to be? Who states the fee?
We do, based on where the location of the new one is. Brown County got stung, this is many years ago, because the application came in for a parcel of land close to a small city. And so that determined the license. But by the time they got up and running, they had spent the $150 to transfer it to a different location. So that first year, the county lost some revenue. But then, from then on, but when you're talking 1,700 for the high and 300 for the low, it's not that big.
And just for information, it's Mansfield Bar and Grill, Fernie Farmers Bar, Big Fellas, Moccasin Creek Country Club, Flatland Flyaway Lodge, Dakota River Ranch or Tacoma Park Place, Elm Lake Resort, and The Connection in Howard are the ones we are approving today. Any other questions?
I would move.
Motion by Feldheim,
Second.
seconded by Sutton. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, the library agreement.
Move.
Motion by Hanson,
Second.
seconded by Fishback. Questions on that agreement? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And it wasn't on the agenda, but the auditor's report of account is in the packet.
Everybody have a chance to check that out?
I'll move it.
Motion by Sutton, seconded by Hanson. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Gary, do you have anything for us?
No, I do not.
Okay, anything from the commissioners today?
Could I ask for an executive session now that we got the
Yeah.
position authorized? I think I want to give some legal advice on Marcy's Law if I could.
Okay.
I'll move it.
Motion by Sutton, seconded by Hanson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are in exec. Aye.
Jim Ronning brought his liquor license in.
Oh, okay.
So, if you want a separate motion, or just add it to the motion with the...
Well,
rest
being
of
she
them?
read those other ones off, we better have it separate, huh?
We've got Anchors Away Lodge and Resort. I'd entertain a motion to approve that liquor license.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, seconded by Feldheim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. And we had no action as
action.
a result of that. So, are we just looking at the voter registration totals from the...
So the inactive registration, those are people that you have listed that don't vote.
Okay, they haven't voted in 2 general elections.
Okay.
Then they're placed on the inactive list. And then they have the opportunity for 2 more general elections. And if they come to vote, then they fill out a new registration form to update their records, and then they're active. If they don't vote for those 2 inactive general elections, then they're purged from the system.
Which precinct is Warner's?
Warner,
What number?
17.
Auto mark? 18.
I read the report wrong. There were more than, there's about 30 that voted on the auto mark.
Okay.
We'll have this put together.
Auto mark in 10 was much higher than it was in 12 and 14. Seems like
It was new then.
well,
No, it was, look at Columbia, that's 13. Look at their numbers for the auto mark.
I need
Because if nobody's using it, they ask you, do you want to use this? I'll show you how to use it.
Yeah.
22. And 10. 9. And 5. No, 9. And 4, 12.
We had 22 provisional ballots this year. 5 of them
none.
were...
That was just an all vote center. And 14, they just showed it all, they didn't break it
Oh,
down.
we didn't have it broke down by...
Yeah.
How much do we have in our Help America Vote Act? How much is that?
I think it's about 140.
120,000?
Yeah.
And that was different than what we used for this. This was a
Yes,
different grant.
completely different grant. This was a construction grant, and the HAVA grant for elections is separate. And see, it depends on the budget, whether I use the HAVA grant for things like publication. This year, we may have to, because we had to publish the entire amendments and initiated measures. This is the sample from American News. Three pages, $2,565.71. And see, we have no way of predicting that, how many measures are going to be on the ballot when we set the budget, the year before. And so with all 3 papers having to publish this, I think you saw that email I sent. One paper had to publish it twice because they didn't have the strikeouts and the underlines, and we didn't pay for that.
Second run?
The one publication. I don't have the cost on the smaller papers, but this is Aberdeen American News. So our publication costs will be up and just the ballot itself needing the 17-inch. So it depends if you want me to have a fund this year to help cover some of these expenses.
When did we originally get that money?
It's been, oh,
It
boy.
was a one-time, right?
Right. Yeah, and they may have added a little bit to it the following year. The state gets the bulk of it, and then each county gets a proportionate share.
So if we use it, it's not like we have anything in the future that's gonna replace it.
Right.
All right.
And you know my patience.
So was it some sort of belt that slowed down the county?
Yes, the belt was sliding off its channel, and once we put it back on the channel, then we ran some more ballots, and then it slowly worked its way off.
How often does that belt get changed?
We do a preventive maintenance every 2 years, and they were here before the primary.
Was the belt changed or not changed?
I don't know.
Do we have
So
one
what's
on the
the belt?
shelf now?
No, because we would have no way of knowing how to install it.
So,
Yeah.
what's that belt cost?
It's part, I don't know.
So that belt
Is it
should
covered
change.
under our annual
It's kind of
It's
half
covered
leather
under the
rubber,
annual
I mean, it's not even a
maintenance.
true, like, yeah, we've seen the belt and was frayed on the edges, and
Yeah.
it's not much of a part.
No.
Hard to believe that belt cost $15, because very much to it.
Well, it's probably $150.
Well.
And how much does it cost to have the guy come and change it?
It doesn't say John Deere
So
or
where'd
Pace on it.
so where'd the guy come from to change it?
Well, the ES&S always has a tech within the state, and there's been major problems with the 850 in Minnehaha County for the last 3 years, and so they stationed the tech in Minnehaha County. I think you remember
So you had to wait for the guy to come up from Sioux
Yes,
Falls?
He drove?
he drove from Sioux Falls, and then it took him about 15 minutes to replace the belt. But in the meantime, we were still counting, because we would count until we got the error message, a short ballot, then we knew that the belt had slipped far enough, because you cannot have the back door open when the machine is running.
Efficiency in the government. Ay, 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 that's it. You think they could have made that machine differently?
Well, it works most of the time.
Yeah, but wouldn't you have the slowdowns last election?
Yes.
Yeah.
Humidity is the main cost
Mhm.
of the slowdown, and folding the absentee ballots causes some problems if the fold is right on the oval. We noticed with going to vote centers, before when the absentees went to the neighborhood precincts, and the precinct workers would process those absentees during the day, and so those folded ballots were intermixed with the in-person voters. Well, with the vote centers that we have the absentee precinct, the whole stack is folded. And so we were very careful. We told the absentee board, before you put that ballot in the can, back fold it and put it in the can with the fold up so that it flattens them down. And that worked, because we had absolutely very little, I should say, very little machine stopping because of the fold on the absentee. A lot of counties special ordered larger envelopes. The problem was, they had to fold the envelope to get it in a mailbox. So it defeated the purpose of the special.
So it wasn't the Russians then, huh?
As far as the count was right on. It matched the poll books, and, you know, yeah. So the machine did what it was supposed to do. It just wasn't as fast as some may have liked.
Sure. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, anything else from the commissioners in attendance here? I would entertain a motion to go into exec for personnel.
So moved.
Moved by Putnam,
Second.
seconded by Fishback. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll be in exec session.
We'll stay here.
All right, we will be back in session. Max, there's no action as a result of exec. Derek's here. Why don't we just talk about, for the last couple of years, we've talked about the voucher thing and selling tickets pre-Christmas, Black Friday time. What have you found out about that? Is it something we can do? Is it something we...
It is something we can do. We obviously have the ability to do it with the ticket system. What we would have to do on the accounting side is we'd have to set up a deferred revenue. We don't necessarily need to set up the deferred expense account, but we should, because by the time the 30-day expense rolls in from the online system, that'll probably fall toward the end of December. So we should probably set up the deferred expense account at the same time and the deferred revenue account. And then we should push that money into the deferred revenue account, push the expenses into the deferred expense account. Depending upon how those fall, we may be able to absorb that expense in this calendar year based on where my budget sits today without going over.
What will the expense be?
The expense would be from the online ticket
Oh, the
service.
online ticket.
Yeah. And then the credit card companies at that point too. So,
Yeah.
so we'd have two expenses on that. Now on the credit card company, on the credit card side, we would have the reserve income to cover that. We could afford to absorb the fee for the ticket system, but with the current budget in this year, but we would not be able to do that with the credit card fees. But we would have the revenue to offset that once we got through that. So we would have to figure out from an accounting standpoint how to make that work.
And are you guys already, you have a meeting this week, right?
Yep.
And are you
Wednesday.
aware of what you want your prices to be kind of for next year, so you know what?
That's what we're going to finalize at this
Okay.
meeting. Yeah.
So maybe, does anybody have any questions on that?
We've discussed it at the committee level, but not at the full board level.
And the thought was just when you get into Thanksgiving time and Christmas, there's a little bit more disposable income and might be stocking stuffers. Would it be carnival, entertainment, everything?
Could
or
be
just-
everything, yeah.
Okay.
And we'll meet with the carnival companies that we're going to be working with up at the North Dakota, South Dakota Convention, so we'll be able to finalize that pricing as well too over this coming weekend. And have that ready.
They'd basically be buying a voucher, not really knowing what their concert would be or any of that, would they? It'd be just kind of like a surprise.
We will move 3 out of the 6.
That's why I asked it that way.
There may be an announcement in the future?
Maybe an announcement in the future. We may know 5 out of 6 by this time next week, so.
Okay. So maybe a little nugget of one of them with the vouchers or something?
Yeah, mystery.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any problems if they pursue that, or is there questions?
I don't.
I'd entertain a motion to authorize them to go ahead and do vouchers if they are ready to go, and
I would make that motion.
motion by Sutton, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Feldheim, any questions or discussion?
They're not really vouchers, they're actual tickets, aren't they?
We can't do actual tickets according to revenue, right? It has to be a voucher?
No, as long as you set up the deferred revenue and the deferred expense
Oh,
accounts,
it can
you
be.
can. The only,
Okay.
if you were not going to do the deferred revenue and the deferred expense accounts, then it would have to be a voucher system.
Okay, and then they're individually numbered and just like the online, like we've been doing?
Exactly the same like you've been doing, yeah. Individual barcodes, individual IPC numbers.
Okay. Any other questions?
So that's what we're authorizing, the actual sale of tickets.
Okay.
Correct.
Do we need to authorize the creation of the deferred revenue and deferred expense accounts?
And we have those set up.
So those are set up? Okay. Then we wouldn't need to do that then.
So if it's online, will it close again at any time, or we're opening it up now until June?
You can set those parameters. You can open it, you can leave it open throughout the whole way, you can close it throughout the whole way. It just depends on how you want to define those parameters. So you have the flexibility to do either or. We can have it run for a certain time, close it, then open it again. I mean, so it just depends on how we want to structure that.
But you as a board will kind of make those
Yeah, why don't you
determinations
guys
here
talk
next week.
about it?
Correct. We'll talk about it.
Will
as a
there
board.
be an exact cutoff, December 31st? That's what we need for the deferred.
There will be, as far as a transactional timeline, yes. It won't necessarily cut off and not let anybody sell, but it will cycle and timestamp based on the time the transaction is completed.
Okay, and we'll have the number of individual tickets sold.
Yep, we can do that because we'll set it to expire at midnight on January 1st, as far as when we run the reports.
December 31st.
Well, be technically, if we cut it off at midnight January 1st, because if you have a sale that comes in at 12:59, that's got to be carried in the current year. So when we run the report, it'll show all sales up to midnight of that January 1st deadline. But it's basically 11:59 on December 31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the motion?
in case they're out partying on New Year's Eve and wanna buy a ticket, yeah.
Hey, we'll start a fair New Year's Eve party.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Thank
the
you very much.
update.
Have a good
Appreciate you
day.
coming in.
You too.
Any action on the...
No. All right, anything from the folks in attendance? Did anything come up while we were in? All right, I entertain motion to adjourn.
Gary, got anything?
Move it.
Moved by Fishbeck,
Second.
seconded by Feldheim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and we'll be adjourned.